Well, the NSA director now defending the effectiveness of his agency's surveillance program. But General Keith Alexander is also issuing one key warning about the leaking of this classified information by Ed Snowden. Watch some of this.
How damaging is this to the national security of the American people that this trust was violated?
I think it was irreversible and significant damage to this nation.
Has this helped America's enemies?
I believe it has, and I believe it will hurt us and our allies.
Interesting exchange there. We're glad to be joined this morning by Michael Chertoff, who, of course, is former Homeland Security Secretary, also a former federal judge, and the chairman and co-founder of the Chertoff Group. Welcome. Great to have you here this morning, sir. Welcome.
Good to be on, Martha.
So what do you think about that? I mean, do you believe that this leak has made us less safe in this country?
I think it has, and I think that's true for a couple of reasons. First, the more detail that you put out about these programs, the more you give terrorists and other adversaries a roadmap to minimize their exposure to our intelligence collection. And in dealing with terrorism, getting intelligence and information is the key to warning, and that's what prevents plots. And we saw a testimony yesterday that described 50 instances in which globally plots have been disrupted through these kinds of collection activities. The second thing it does is it undermines confidence on the part of our allies about our ability to keep important matters secret, and that also hurts our cooperation globally.
Yeah, that's clearly an issue. You know, one of the larger sort of venues here, when you look at this discussion, is whether or not they were reaching a bit yesterday to validate this program. Because you hear the critics say, look, you know, the 50 instances that you mentioned, 40 of those were more minor incidents that happened overseas. There's also suggestions that a number of these that were uncovered were based in FBI sting operations. In other words, that there were so many other factors that allowed us to get to where we got on this, that the surveillance program really was not the key thing.
Well, you know, that's one of the challenges dealing with any effort after the fact to figure out what caused us to be able to unravel a plot. And I think President Obama made the point in his interview recently that you can never say that any particular technique was critical. It's all part of a mosaic. It's all part of a number of things that you hope will give you warning. The problem is, as you start to abandon those techniques, you begin to increase the risk of an attack and minimize the possibility of intercepting it. So unless you want to play games with the safety of the American people and try to make it as much of a cliffhanger as possible, you never want to sacrifice a program that is proven to give valuable intelligence information.
I understand that, but, you know, a lot of people look at, for example, what happened in Boston or what happened in Fort Hood, right? And they say, look, there was communication going on, overseas communication going on in these cases. These people were on the Internet. They were on YouTube. They were on cell phones. So it seems in those cases that they were tailor-made, really, to have been picked up by this program. And people, you know, want to know, is that not a good test case? Should we not also look at the failures and say, why did we fail in this case? Is the whole thing too broad, perhaps?
Well, I take the Boston case.
Yeah.
Actually, that's an illustration of some of the limitations that we put on our program.
How so?
Because you had two American citizens or one American citizen and a legal permanent resident. And as was made clear yesterday, that's precisely the category of people that can't be routinely monitored and whom you can't constantly surveil. So in a way, the Boston case is an illustration that we haven't done certain things we might do because of legal restrictions. But I'll tell you from my own experience, the kind of data you can pick up from this kind of program is enormously valuable in disrupting plots. You know, we went back after 9/11, when I was secretary, and we looked at whether this kind of data would have allowed us to identify the 9/11 hijackers ahead of the attacks on September 11th. And the answer is it would have connected up about 15 of the 19 hijackers. Now, it was not just phone data, it was travel data as well. But it shows you the power of this kind of information in preventing plots.
But does it concern you when you look at the efficiency of the system? You know, I think you could have gone to a judge to get back to Tamerlan Tsarnaev and said, look, the Russians have warned us about this guy. We need a little bit more latitude in this case. I cannot imagine a judge that would turn that down given all of those circumstances. cases. You know, and you look at, for example, the 9/11 examples that you point to, that kind of focus on these people. I mean, judges, as we know, the FISA court has been very flexible when asked to have a little more latitude with these cases.
Well, sure, and I mean, I think once you've identified a red flag or somebody that you need to look at,
right,
it is possible to get permission from the court, absolutely. I think the challenge with the Tamerlan Tsarnaev case is why it is that the information from Russia did not trigger a more intensive investigation.
Yeah.
But that's separate from this program. This program is not designed to be the end of investigation. What it's designed to do is allow you to look at a broad range of data and identify out of that broad range the couple of needles in the haystack that warrant a closer look. But then you have to go to the court and get permission to get that closer look.
Yeah. Michael Chertoff, thank you very much. Great to have you here, sir.
Good to be